is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Today we're going to do light because the light is on the change as far as my grow room is concerned, and things are going to be different, different positions and things. I've had a good think. Now I'll put a link in the description. In fact, no I won't. I will have a pause now and I'll show you the piece of software I mean. Okay, let's have a look at this software then. So this is the software I use. It's called dateandtime.com, so you can search in on that. Then you have to make adjustments to, from the home page. You need to get your place in. So obviously I've got it set up for Bournemouth, as you can see here, and I've also bookmarked the actual site. Once I got it set how I wanted it, I bookmarked it up here in my Google bookmarks so that I can come straight back to where I was before. Right, so what do you get then? Across the headings then you get the date down the left, you get sunrise time, you get sunset time, and what I use quite a bit, you get day length and the difference between today, yesterday and the day after, if you see what I mean. Yeah? And then there's a load of moon stuff over here that I don't use. Right, so what you can do is change it. So I'm going to go back to June 2021, hit the go button, and it's now brought up all the details for June. Yeah, and if we come down to the equinox, which I believe was the 21st, if you click on a date it expands the view. So again, you get your sunrise, you get midday, and you get your sunset. But what you also get is the altitude. So obviously, at this point in time, the longest day, yeah, has a sun's altitude of 63 degrees. We'll come back to that in a minute. So that's about a third of the way between horizontal and vertical. It's about a third of the way up, between 0 and 90 basically. So that's what it looked like in June. Let's come back to now. So we want August 2021, go. And because today's date is within this month, it will automatically be opened up on that date. You can see the altitude now at midday is down to 48 degrees. That's quite a bit less than 63. And that's what I'll be coming on to. And if you take the month of August, the day length was 15 and a quarter roughly, yeah, at the start of the month. And by the end of the month, it's down to 13 and a half. That's quite a drop. Let's see what happens in September. So coming soon, September, a couple of days' time. Now this time when we head down here, we start off with our day length around 13 and a half, yeah? And by the time we get to the end of September, we're down to 11 and 3/4. And if we open up that day, look at the altitude of the sun. It's down to 36 now, so it's heading down to a third, yeah? Between the 0 and the 90, between the horizontal and the vertical, we're now down to nearly a third above the horizon, whereas before we were at 2/3 above the horizon. That is a considerable difference, and it's that difference that I want to talk about today. So there we go then. I'm sure there are other sites that give you just as good information and possibly even better, but I like this one. So dateandtime.com, get your place set up, store it away somewhere so that when you return it comes back to where the, hold your settings basically. And yeah, it's good stuff. I like it. Right, so now you know the software that I use. I'm sure there are many other sites that give you the same sort of information, but the information I use most is actually day length. But height of the sun at this point is important because that's what's triggered today. So like I say, if you, my son comes round over here, the house is in the way, yeah. So at the moment, the sun is streaming in the window at that end of the house. Then it'll all go dark, and then the sun comes over the top, and that happens at about 11 o'clock, something like that. It lights up the garden and gradually creeps towards the grow room. And if you take the sun at its highest point, just over 60 degrees, if that's 0 and straight up in the air is 90, 60 is 2/3 of that. and you can see that that is above the roof, yeah? So a lot of the light is coming in through the roof in the main. Okay, it does come in at an angle through the side windows, but in the main, at its strongest, it's coming in through the roof. That's for the summer months, yeah? You've got the equinox, whatever it is, 20 something of June. So you could say sort of six to 8 weeks either side of that, the sun's at its high point. But now we're getting to the end of August and heading on into September. The day lengths are getting shorter. We've gone from nearly 16.5 hours to less than 14 now. And by the end of September, we'll be right down, yeah? So to achieve those lesser day lengths, the sun drops in its height. So it rises and sets earlier in the day. So that's how it all works. And at the moment, we've dropped down to 40 something degrees. So instead of being like that, we're now like that. So where's most of my light coming from now? It's not coming in the roof anymore, it's coming in the sides. And for its longest and strongest period, it's hitting this side. And then as it moves round, it hits this side. And certainly for a while, between that large tree and where it sets, there's nothing in the way. So although that's afternoon sun, it's very strong on this end, yeah? But that's only for, you know, half of its time. This is where most of my light comes from. So when it's coming in through the roof, all my Cattleyas live up here and against this, you know, basically high up, yeah, to get close to the roof, to get their maximum light. Well, that's now not the brightest place in here. Over here is. So what we're going to do today is we're going to move everything round with the logic of adjusting their placement to gain benefit from light, or lose it. Because some of the things on this shelf, that light's now getting too strong. I got told off for getting my oncidium types in too much light. Well, this is what happens. You get them in their place and you get lazy. You think that's where they live and you keep it the same. Well, if you're growing in artificial lights, that's fine because it is the same, but not if the sun's on the move, which it is. So, first job is get everything off this shelf that isn't a Cattleya type or a high light requirement type. It's not necessarily a Cattleya. So Zygopetalum is a bright light, not a high light. So you can come off. Now Brassia, that can go up. That could go up to Cattleya light and probably not singe it. But this is already in bloom and it hasn't started its new growths yet. So its light doesn't matter. What you're looking at is getting your light spot on for the blooming. It's like I've said with a lot of my dendrobiums, those winter resters that bloom in the spring, the light is at its most important to induce those blooms. During the growing season it doesn't matter as much, they can actually go quite shady and they'll grow smashing. But to get the blooms, you've got to get the light right. Most important. Oh, I've got another pinguicula here. I'm going to have to get those repotted. There's quite a few people looking forward to me struggling repotting my pinguiculas. I'll tell you why I haven't done it, because it is on the cards. I haven't done the pinguiculas because I haven't got the right media. I've got the peat, real peat as well. I know everybody protests about, you know, draining the peat bogs and everything like that for gardens, which is not on. But this peat, chunky peat, real coarse, came from the Carnivorous Plant Nursery, and they have said if they don't have peat, their nursery will die because they cannot find a suitable substitute that works for the plants that need that acid-loving peat. So it is important. I know that there's an English nursery as well, if it's still going, that grows Deesas. And that guy said, if we lose peat, we'll lose our nursery, because that's the only thing the Deesas grow really well in. They have found some things where they don't grow too bad, but they haven't got, you know, as a nursery, they obviously want their plants at their best. And peat is what they grow in.
with some things added often, but that's what they grow in. Right, so that's everything off there that's not a Cattleya. There's 3 up in the corner. Now you can see what I was getting at. You see the 3 that are left there up the end, they're up against the glass, yeah, to get as much light as possible on that shelf. But now what we've got to do, apart from the BC Make, which is growing, we've got new growths pushing on with roots, so that needs to go in a pot soon and get, you know, get settled in, but not at the moment. That, as in its state at the moment, that doesn't need high light. I'm running out of room here. Right. Now what we've got to do is position low to high. Yeah? So all the smallest ones go up the back of the shelf, and all the tallest ones, so that back, and then all the tallest ones will be at the front of the shelf, which is the, you know, to get the angle. The distance from the glass does make a bit of difference, but not a lot. If you try a camera or a light meter, when the sun's coming in a window, yeah, and you put the light meter next to the glass and then move away, as long as you're still in the sun, you can move quite a distance before the light starts to dramatically drop. Yeah? Obviously, if you move into the shadow, then it drops right down. But we're not doing that. So let's get all these manky Cattleyas. I need to find the small ones, don't I? Trouble is, I've got 2 up the back there that I'm hoping to be able to lift out without moving all the plants. One of them's quite a tall one as well. It's going to have to come right up over the top. Gotcha, that's one. That's quite a large one, so I don't. And then the other one, which again is quite tall. Alright, so that's those 2. I'm running out of space here, you can just go up there for a minute. Right, so short ones or thin ones. By thin ones I mean ones without many leaves on, so they don't form a bush. And quite honestly, there aren't many. There's this one up here that ought to go in the bin really, but despite it being absolutely awful and should have been thrown out a long time ago, it's going to make it. It's going to grow. So that was one of the ones that came from Jeff's, and it's called, it's a Potinara Cat Green Power Big Triple G. Big green blooms, me suspects, but not on that growth. we need to get growth and roots going first. So that one can go right up the front against the glass because it has no bush. And then there's one over here that's against the glass. Again, this one would have been thrown out in a lot of people's collections because it's gone downhill really badly. But it has grown a new growth, half size, but it's made it and it's pushed some roots out and it will progress. So again, only one leaf and a reduced size leaf. So that one can go near the front, the sun will shine right through that. If you've got a choice and you're positioning Cattleyas to face the light, look at the plant, yeah, and look at the scale. they're just dropping off. These are dead, so I think we're getting there. Yeah, try and find a position where the most leaf surface is facing the light, and on this plant it's there. You've got that huge leaf there, that one and that one facing the light, so that's the way it needs to point towards the brightest light. Yeah, and you can try and do that with all of them. You can try and get as much leaf cover facing the light as you can. There will always be a position where more light will get on the leaves than not. And Francis Fox up here, that's a highlight one or it won't bloom. So that's going right up against the glass. Let's see if that will actually work. Right, so now we've got the taller stuff. So there's a tall skinny one here. So I'm now starting to think about light. And oh, there's one over here. We'll have to get that out because that is a purpurata. That needs good light. But again, it needs good light to bloom, and the latest two growths have not got a sheath, so they're not going to bloom. So we've got to get to the next lot of growths to get that to bloom. So being in the brightest light at the moment doesn't really matter. But as it's very tall, gangly, we'll put it up the end near the glass. Up there. So that's you done. And the other purpurata also isn't going to bloom. That's a skinny one. Yeah, light will pass straight through. That's an awful looking plant, that is. But it's still bloomed. We'll see what it does next time round. But that needs to sort of straighten itself up a bit. That's that one. Just having a look here. So much damage on these plants. It's a little upsetting to think, you know, what they were once like and what they're actually like now, but you make your mistakes, you've got to live with it. Now this is a purpurata. Again, this is not going to bloom. It's not strong enough for a start, and a lot of the leaves have yellowed, so there's very little photosynthesis going on, but we do have one new growth coming. That growth cannot be allowed to bloom even if it tries. The plant's now too weak. So putting this in the brightest light doesn't matter at the moment because I'm not trying to get it to bloom. So just, you know, good light. So you can go up next to the other one. Here's the glass. Right, I'm not sure we're even going to get all of these on the shelf. Now this one's coming on quite nicely. That's actually got 3 new growths, despite all the chemical damage on all the old leaves, which these are not going to last long, these are going to drop. And then all I've got is my new growths. So again, very little photosynthesis going on. Well, it doesn't need the bright light at the moment then, does it? You know, so we'll put that up in there so that those new growths get a reasonable bit of light. Now, where are we? What have we got left? That is the least light requirement. That's my apple blossom. You get the light too bright on that, you burn the leaves. So that, in fact, that's not even going to go on this shelf. That's going to stay and go somewhere else where it gets less light. It singes very easy, that one. This is just a Cattleya hybrid. Damaged, but far from lost. And we do have the new growth starting, so I'll get you in the middle there somewhere. That one with its big leaves goes there. That leaves 1, so we haven't done bad. Which is this one. That's my Laelia anceps. Again, that needs pretty good light. So you can go there. Right, so that's now what we've got is what was my highest light shelf, yeah, is now a lot less because it now hasn't got so much coming in from the roof. It's going to get very little from that side, so it's got to wait, excuse my back, till the sun gets round here. And for the afternoon it will be bright light. So what we're looking to put up there now is the next level down. So those that need quite bright light but not, oh my goodness, look what I've just spotted. This is my wildcat, bobcat. And I always said that if I can grow a bulb as good as that one, I will be over the moon. Well, look what's poking out of the latest growth. We've got our spike. That's before the bulb's matured as well. Oh, I'm over the moon. Looking forward to that. Now again, does that now need bright light? Does that need anything special? No, it's already got its spike. I'm not trying to get it to bloom, it is going to bloom. So all we need now is to make sure this is fed and watered correctly. The light has become almost irrelevant. As long as, you know, obviously everything in here gets enough light. Well, virtually everything. So as I said, what we're looking for now is the next level down. So this is plants. I'm not going to be able to do all of this today. It's the plants that need good light. And in amongst those are going to be some of the dendrobiums for their winter, but not now. They're still growing at the moment. But yeah, some of the dendrobiums can go up here against the glass. They'll be okay up there. The potted ones, this is obviously. Most of my true winter resters are on a mount, and there's a rack up there where the plants face this way at the moment, so they've got their backs to the brightest light because it's too much in the growing season. But once I get into winter time, the sun will be lower in the sky and the back of that rack will be in good bright sun with the shade netting greatly reduced. That's their bright light for the winter time. But things like the nobelies, they're in pots. They'll go on that shelf. They've got the height because some of them are getting pretty tall. So as I said, we're not going to be able to do all of this today. Oh, I'm over the moon with that. And you can just go there for now. Basically because I need to put you down. Oh, we missed one. We missed a Cattleya. Now this one's got 2 new growths pushing on, here, and associated roots. And this plant's never grown good roots. So these 2 latest growths are putting on a reasonable, we have a sheath on this one already. So it looks like we might get some blooms, and it looks like there's going to be a sheath on that growth too. That doesn't mean I will get blooms, but it's a much better chance of getting them with a sheath than without, if it's that type of Cattleya. So you can go up there. Let's fill that shelf up nicely. And then this one, the last one, the apple blossom, I want that somewhere else because it's easily singed. So what are we going to put up there? A lot of what we took off of that shelf is now going to go up there. So that is a that's dendrobium. That's formosum, so that's a black hair type. Now in the growing season, mostly the black hair types come from evergreen forests, so they don't get the brightest of lights, but they do come from the part of the world that's relatively close to the equator, so it's a lot brighter than it ever gets here. That's my little epidendrum, that needs pretty good light, so you can go up there. What I'm trying to do now is position plants that let the light through, or that are short, against the glass, yeah, and then the taller ones can sit behind. And as I said, this is going to take a little bit of arranging. Now that's a nobly, that's my prima donna, looking a bit tatty at the moment, but it's just started a new growth. That's a good time of year to start a new growth, isn't it? Nuisance. Well, if we put it up in the slightly brighter light than it was getting, perhaps it will push up a second new growth. That'll be nice. That's another black hair type. Frosty Dawn, red lip. 2 lovely new growths there, which I will keep my eye on to make sure that this isn't too bright for it. But we'll, hopefully that will push on nicely now. It's good to have height, a shelf that's got a lot of height. What else have we got here? The make-hair don't want there. The brassica, that can go up there. It's actually in bloom, so obviously we still want to see the blooms there. Go there. This thing, I'm not quite sure whether those 2 growths are going to bloom. It's split a growth, it's a strange one. It's an Oncidium Cheyenne, but that's probably a trade name anyway. But it pushed up a new growth that split into 2, and they're not growing as well as they should. But it's grown quite a few roots, so we'll see what it does. We get quite a bit on this shelf. Somewhere for the make-egg, you can go over there on the corner. I need to pop that. And then at the back of this area, I was told, give your zygos more light than it says, and they will grow better and faster and more vigorous and produce more roots. But there's a limit. You can take them up into a light level that would probably burn them. But I'm quite happy. This one fell over sideways when I potted it and it didn't get straightened up, unfortunately. But new growth here doing roots, and now we've got another new growth coming out here, which will also produce some new roots. So subsequent growths will come across the pot and be upright. But we'll get that up there. Let's get that up in some brighter light. What else can we put up there? We're not putting a Restrepia up there. That's for sure. Now, where I move those two Cattleyas back against that glass, there's a zygo up there. That zygo can now go towards the glass and get brighter light. And the Oncidium type that was in front of the Cattleyas is just starting its new growth. This is Encyclia lancifolia. This was the one that put up a spike and slug at it. So consequently it's a non-bloomer for me. Came from Jeff, but down at the base of those growths, if you can see it, yeah, we've got the two new growths, so hopefully it'll bloom on those. That'll be good. So we'll get that nearer the glass. That leaves me some space. That leaves me space for two plants up there now. So I'm scouring, looking for things that could go up there. See, over here, the top two shelves now are going to be quite bright. So I've got to go steady, especially the ones that are up against the glass. Now on this shelf, I've got very tall plants against the glass. They're all dendrobium types, a couple of nobiles. Yeah, so they're in the right place. We've missed a Cattleya, my fault, because it's in a funny place. Right, well that's not a highlight requirement, this one, but it's our Cattleya, Chantilly lace. Its last bloom is going to go soon, then it's a matter of pushing on the new growths which have started. So, but again, that's not a highlight requirement, so that can go on the end here. Push that zygo over a bit, it can go there, so that we can still see that bloom while it's still with us, which is not going to be for much longer. It's only got another couple of days, that bloom. So we'll have that there. That leaves a bigger space there. There's nothing down there needs to move. What have we got in there? Nothing in there that needs to move, not at the moment. Now, what about here? That is, I don't know what, because it's got no tag. I've got a feeling that was one of the odont types, you know, just a hybrid, but it's got dark green leaves. Now, under normal circumstances, that implies it can take stronger light. So we'll move that little one up onto this shelf where I've got some space, or I have now. So that'll give that a bit more light, because that was down on the lower shelf. Anything else here that needs brighter light? No. But I will have to watch these, because look, that shelf's right down here, yeah? It's low. You think it's shaded. Well, once the sun comes in through that doorway there, that's in full sun. But for a very short time, because as the sun moves, all this lot up here will be shading it. So it gets a burst of bright light, perhaps an hour, hour and a half. So what's there now can live with that. Mostly Oncidium and Miltonia types, but there is a Coelogene and my Pabstia, which I don't want that getting too much light. Although if it's a relative of the zygos, perhaps it needs more than it's getting, but it's now getting a bit more light for that short period of time anyway. And we've still got to find somewhere for this. And I think that can have the last space on that shelf. Over there. Right. So that's phase one of a shift around. That's not it. That's just, that gets my Cattleya types over there, which is what I wanted, and then their replacements have gone there. But what I do have to watch is height. Yeah, I mean the Dendrobium Sweet Pinky Momoko is 2 foot tall, plus the 7 or 8 inches of the pot. It's a very tall plant. So that can now go on this shelf. It'll almost be touching the roof, but you know, it's got to go somewhere, and there's only so much room here. So that's that. I don't think I want to move anything else today. No, there's a brassica down there that's serving a purpose, because now that the sun's dropping, I realise my Miltoniopsis are getting that afternoon sun. Ooh, no, 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 no. So I put the big brassica in front of them to shade them. That's not its permanent place, but it'll do for now. Right, so that's moving around stage one. I'm not really going to move much else at the moment. I am going to move that little dendrobium. That's my moniliform. I wanted to let it have a little bit of time to settle in. That's come back from Marius, basically. So it went from Jeff's National Collection to Marius, and then there were some duplicates which I sort of got back off of Marius, and that's one of them, the moniliform. So that is going to go up there with the Cattleyas to get a bit of brighter light for part of the day. Anything else up here? Everything else up here can stay where it is. My Latoria types are behind the Nobile types, yeah, so they're sheltered. They don't get that full set of light. So that's about it for today, I think. Shuffling things around for the sole purposes of light adjustment, based on the fact that where the light was at its full height in this country, it's just over 60 degrees. Well, it's come down to 40 something now. That's quite a drop, yeah? And obviously in the winter time, you know, it's not far off the flipping horizon. Yeah, and doesn't last as long, because instead of going right over there to set, it sets here. It sets like, you know, just there. So we're going to get that little bit in the afternoon. It drops down. Now, additional lighting. Having put all my Cattleyas there, if I put a grow light on the roof, or near the roof, suspended from the roof above those Cattleyas, I could do additional lighting for that shelf. I might do, but you have to bear in mind, I don't know if I'm still going to be here in the winter, do I? It's all open-ended at the moment, so I'm not making long-term plans like that. Because they're a struggle. To set up the grow lights in here is a real pain. It's hard work. It's, you know, trying to get them in a place where the plants aren't too close, but they're not too far away and the light serves no purpose. Getting the power cables sorted out and getting them, you know, in a position where I can turn them on and off, you know. So it's quite hard work. And I end up with a lot of plants just not benefiting from it. So we've done most of the Cattleyas, but what we haven't done is the mounted Cattleyas. Yeah? Now, we lost one, by the way, and it was a little favourite, but it's been struggling for some time. It's got some internal rot on it, but the it was Cattleya wine. No, it wasn't. I've forgotten, but it was the one that was crossed with Encyclia Vitalina. I'll do a pop-up for it, but it's rotted another bulb, leaving two, and no sign of any growth on it whatsoever. So it's had its chances. There is some sort of problem internally on that plant that it's not going to recover from. It's rotted off every new growth it's tried, and unsuccessfully started roots. So it's just fundamentally there's something wrong with it. So, you know, it's gone. So that's one less. But there's three little Cattleyas up there with their backs to the brightest light, and there's some up there mounted. But again, you know, they're fine. The amount of light they're getting at the moment is fine, because I'm not trying to get them to bloom yet. Most of them I'm pushing on new growths and new sets of roots, because I haven't had them a huge amount of time. So that's that. So yeah, that's the first lot of repositioning. And adjusting plants for light is quite important if you have distinct seasons. I mean, if you're in the part of the world where you get wet and dry and no real sort of spring, summer, autumn, winter type thing, then you don't have to worry about it so much. But if you're in the where you get the distinct 4 seasons, more so if you grow in the house than if you grow somewhere like this or in a greenhouse. But if you grow in the house, the light level changes in different parts of the rooms as the seasons change. And as we head in towards autumn, the sun gets lower in the sky, it reaches farther into your rooms. You know, you imagine the angle like that, and and the top of your window is here, you know, the shadow starts here on the floor. Well, as the sun drops down, that shadow's moving farther and farther into the room, and for a while the light level increases for those plants. But as it gets lower and lower in the sky, it starts to decrease again because it's lower in the sky and therefore it's not as strong. But reposition your plants, have a think about them every now and again, and just think, is that getting enough light? Oh, we've got a new bloom. Another Miltonia, just for a change. Well, this plant's not growing very well. It objected to being moved, but hopefully its next pair of growths will be okay. But both of the latest growths are blooming, but yeah, it's a little Miltonia. Nice, attractive. Smallish, but quite attractive. Those are, I don't know what the camera's doing with the light, with the colours, but that's a bronzy greeny yellowy colour with a purple lip. It's quite a nice combination, and that is, there's no tag on it as usual, that's actually, I believe that's the one that's, I can't remember. It's Cattleya, I believe, which is a naturally occurring hybrid, so yeah, so that's that. But we've had some hydration problems with this where it didn't have a good root system when it was mounted. The idea of mounting it was to get a good root system, which it's struggling to achieve at the moment. It's not trying as hard as perhaps it could do. Probably letting it bloom wasn't a good idea. Anyway, what else? There's, I'd like to show you the Hercoglossum has got, this is what happens when plants are big. There's some Hercoglossum blooms there, and there's some Hercoglossum blooms right over here. It's the same plant. And there's some up there as well. That plant is getting big, it really is. Okay, so about light. Move your plants. I mean, over here is a sea of Oncidium types on that wall, mainly the twinkles, but some other things over there. But in amongst those plants are two Brassia types, or one Brassia type. Well, soon, with all this lot here and the sun dropping down and not coming in through the roof, as that sun drops down here, these are going to be in quite heavy shadow. So these might have to move, yeah, because other things are shading them. Again, a rack up there with plants with their back to the brightest light. Well, they'll have to, you know, some of those can go around the other side and face the light, get better light. So that's where a lot of my long cane dendrobiums end up. They end up facing the light directly through there. So there we go, chat about light. Could be useful to some people, maybe not for all. And as it's my Sunday, I'll have my usual go. Thank you to those that have subscribed. Thanks for the people who do the thumbs up on a regular basis, it all helps. And special thank you for those that have become patrons to the channel and joined in on the Patreon site. I'll give you a heads up, the payment cycles on Patreon, I believe, are run at the start of the month, sort of like the 1st or 2nd of the month. So all you people that have already joined, if you don't want to pay any money, now's your chance to back out. I'll give you ample warning. But obviously if you remain a patron, and any new people that join, and as a result of this video, your first payment will be taken, I believe, on the 1st of the month. And thank you very much. That money is all getting put separate so that it remains ready for when I have to move and the expense that that's going to cost, and my dramatically increased monthly expenditure for having to rent somewhere suitable to keep this collection going, which in turn keeps the channel going. And for those of you who see a video that to you was a bit special, I mean, hopefully they're all special. But, you know, obviously every now and again one suits one person more than it does somebody else. You can always do the buy me a coffee thing, you know, which is just, it's like leaving a tip, thanks for that video, that's helped me a lot, or whatever. So that sort of thing. So that's that out of the way. I don't do that on every video. That's I'm keeping that for the Sunday one, and only for those who've stayed here till the end. And for those of you who have, thank you very much. because the length of view time also helps. And for those of you who've stuck with me with the ads, adding the ads in the middle, although they're all skippable, all of the ads on my videos should be skippable, so you get to choose. That's what I thought I'd do. I'll allow them, but allow you to choose whether you watch them or not. Again, the 30 seconds minimum watch time. If the ad itself is shorter than that, you need to watch it all or nobody gets any money. And if they're longer than 30 seconds, click over that 30 seconds point and some money comes towards the channel for the work that we do. I mean, at the end of the day, the creators put in the effort, and the amount of return you get at the sort of channel level that I'm at, if you worked out the hourly rate, it would be like £1. It's hard. Most people would think, oh, I'm not bothering for that, but I do this because I like it, not for the money. But to keep it going longer term in another property, it's going to take more money than I currently get in on a monthly basis. But the income that shows on YouTube that I get from the adverts has definitely increased since I added those ads in, so it is working. And again, thanks for putting up with that. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.